The date on my phone screen was sharp and clear, July 2nd, 25. 3 years. 3 whole years. My name is Kai Chen. 3 years ago today, I was just another recent grad scraping by in the city, another face lost in the crowd. That evening, on my way home from work, I saw an old man clutch his chest and collapse on the sidewalk. His face was pale, his breathing ragged. People hurried past, a river of bodies, afraid to get involved. I didn't think twice. I rushed over, called 911, and rode with him to the hospital. I fronted the emergency room fees with my credit card and stayed by his side through the night. When the old man woke up, he couldn't thank me enough. He told me his name was Kenji Sato, chairman of Sato Global. He had only one heir, his treasured granddaughter, Isla Sato. His health was failing, and his biggest worry was Isla. She was fiercely independent, completely devoted to her career, but she didn't know how to take care of herself, and her ambition made her a target. So Mr. Sato made me an offer that left me speechless. To thank me, and to give me a legitimate reason to look after Isla for 3 years, long enough for her to secure her control over the company. He would give me a sum of money so vast I'd be set for life. The contract that would bind us, a marriage certificate. What was I thinking at the time? Maybe I was moved by his sincerity. Maybe the promise of that vast sum went to my head. But mostly, I was intensely curious about the enigmatic heiress I had yet to meet. So in a moment that felt both insane and preordained, I agreed. Just like that, I, Kai Chun, a broke nobody, became the husband of the Sato global heiress. Married life was nothing like I'd imagined. Isla Sato was as beautiful as her name was elegant. Her features were cool and refined, her skin flawless, and her eyes were like chips of ice, so stunning they dared you to get close. She was the definition of privilege, a product of the finest schools, brilliant and driven, already a top executive at Sato Global despite her youth. But to me, from the very beginning, she was nothing but cold. We lived in a sprawling Upper East Side penthouse Mr. Sato had arranged. The space was huge, but it felt as empty and cold as a mausoleum. We had separate bedrooms, and Isla, she took it all for granted. She'd offer a quiet, thank you, or frown slightly when I told her to bring a coat. If a meal wasn't to her liking, she would simply set down her fork without a word. There was never an extra ounce of expression, never a flicker of warmth. We were legally husband and wife, living under the same roof, but we were more distant than strangers. We had the title, but none of the substance. Her world contained only Sato Global, only work. I was just a necessary but ultimately irrelevant tool in her life. I knew the deal. This was a transaction. I was here for the money. She was doing it to appease her grandfather and solidify her position. We were both getting what we wanted. So for 3 years, I buried every feeling, every frustration. Today, the contract expired. This morning, I made breakfast as usual, oatmeal with fresh berries and the scrambled egg whites she liked. She sat at the dining table in a sharp white pantsuit, eating in silence. Kai, she said suddenly, her voice as flat as ever. Let's go to my lawyer's office at 3. I've had him draw up the divorce papers. My heart gave a strange, sharp jolt. This was it, the day I'd been waiting for. I'd get my payout. I could leave this place and start my own life. I was relieved, giddy even. Okay. I nodded, trying to keep the excitement out of my voice. Sound good. She said nothing more, finished her breakfast, and grabbed her purse. I'm heading to the office. Drive safe, I said out of habit. Her steps faltered for a fraction of a second, but she didn't look back. The front door clicked shut, and the enormous penthouse fell silent, leaving just me. I stared at her empty plate, a hollow feeling spreading through my chest. These 3 years felt like a long, strange dream. In the dream, I'd been orbiting an iceberg, slowly losing all my warmth, growing numb. But it was over now. After the divorce, she'd still be the untouchable Isla Sato, and I would take the money and finally be free. I shook my head, psyching myself up. A better life was waiting. 3 years. 3 goddamn years. It was a long time to hold your breath. 3 p.m., outside a glass and steel midtown skyscraper. Isla was already there, her lawyer by her side. She had on the same cool, detached expression, as if we were here to close a business deal, not a marriage. The lawyer handed me the divorce agreement. I scanned it. It was straightforward. The division of assets was clean, especially the clause detailing my payout. The number was staggering, enough to make all my daydreams a reality. I picked up the pen without hesitation and signed my name, Kai-chun. The moment my pen left the paper, I let out a long, slow breath. The 3-year sentence was over. Isla signed too. When our 2 crimson marriage certificates were exchanged for the final, signed divorce decree, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Mr. Chun, your compensation has been wired to your account, as per the agreement, the lawyer said, handing me a folder with the bank transfer confirmation. I took it, my heart still skipped a beat seeing that string of zeros. Thank you, I said to the lawyer. Then I looked at Isla. Well, Miss Sato, I guess I'll see you around. Isla looked at me, her gaze complicated, as if she wanted to say something more, but in the end, all that came out was a quiet goodbye. With that, she turned, got into a black Bentley with her lawyer, and vanished into the stream of city traffic. I stood on the sidewalk, clutching the divorce papers and a heavy proof of my new wealth. The sun was bright, almost blinding, but my future felt wide open. I tilted my head back and let out a shout, a raw, triumphant sound that seemed to carry all the frustration of the last 3 years with it. Goodbye, Isla Sato. Goodbye, 3-year contract marriage. Goodbye to being a Mr. Sato. As of today, Kai-chun was a free man. The first day after the divorce, I slept until I woke up naturally. No 6:30 alarm, no rush to prepare a specific breakfast, no cool, silent presence in the apartment. The quiet was almost jarring, but the unease was quickly replaced by the sheer joy of freedom. I rolled out of bed, made myself a bowl of instant ramen, and flopped onto the sofa to watch mindless reality TV. I didn't have to worry about when Isla would be home, what to make for dinner, or how to read her moods. The feeling was incredible. I even started mapping out my future. First, use the money to buy my own place. Nothing huge, just a cozy apartment in Brooklyn. Then maybe find a job I actually enjoyed, or open a small coffee shop. Live a simple, quiet life. As for romance, I wasn't even thinking about it. 3 years as a tool had given me a mild case of relationship PTSD. Around noon, my college buddy, Giant Marco, called. Kai, I heard you're free, man. You gotta come out tonight. Man, we're celebrating your emancipation. Come on. I'm in, I said, grinning. The usual spot? You know it. We're not going home sober. I felt even better after hanging up. A night out with the guys, a proper celebration. In the afternoon, I went to the grocery store to stock up on snacks and beer, ready for a lazy night in. As I was walking back to the temporary apartment I was crashing in, I saw a familiar black Bentley parked at the curb. My heart jumped into my throat. No way. The tinted window slid down, revealing Isla's cool, beautiful face. She was wearing a simple white sundress, which softened the sharp edges of her usual corporate armor. What are you doing here? I asked, surprised. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. Just passing by. Passing by, my friend's place wasn't exactly remote, but it was nowhere near Sato Global or her penthouse. The odds of this being a coincidence were slim to none. Oh, I nodded, deciding not to push it. Well, if that's all, I'm gonna head in. Wait, she called out. Yeah. Did you eat lunch? She asked, a slight hesitation in her voice. I froze. In 3 years, this was the first time she had ever asked me if I'd eaten. It was always me asking her. Yeah, I had some ramen, I replied. Oh, she nodded, her eyes flickering for a moment. What about for dinner? Going out with some friends. Who? Guys or girls? The question was so fast, it was reflexive. I raised an eyebrow, puzzled by her behavior. My college buddies. Giant Marco and the guys. Oh, she said again, looking almost relieved, though her face remained a perfect mask. Well, don't drink too much. Got it, I gave a small smile. You should get going too. The great Miss Sato has better things to do than worry about me. I gave her a little wave and turned into the building. In the lobby, I glanced back. The Bentley was still there, the window now rolled up. I couldn't tell if she was still watching. What the hell was that? She's acting weird. She gets a divorce and suddenly starts caring? Is she just not used to it? I shook my head, chalking it up to a temporary glitch in her programming. After all, 3 years is a long time. It was only natural she'd feel a little off when her Livian caretaker suddenly vanished. That night, I was with Giant Marco and the guys at a bar in Brooklyn. Kai, you absolute legend. 3 years of hard time for a lifetime of freedom. You're financially independent. Giant Marco clapped me on the shoulder, his face a mask of pure envy. So, tell us, is the Sato Global Ice Queen really as cold as they say? Did anything, happen in those 3 years? Get out of here. I laughed, shoving him. What do you think? It was a business arrangement, a marriage in name only, you get me? Damn, what a waste, Marco grumbled. But seriously, man, you earned it. 3 years playing butler to a billionaire. Now you're free. It must feel good. It feels amazing. I raised my beer. To freedom. To freedom. We drank, laughed, and reminisced about stupid things we did in college. I let myself go, the tension of the last 3 years slowly dissolving in the alcohol. Halfway through a second pitcher, my phone buzzed. The caller ID was Isla. I stared at it for a second, then answered. Hello. Where are you? Her voice on the other end was tight, with an urgency I couldn't place. I'm with my friends. I told you I would be. How much have you had to drink? Not much. Just a couple of beers. Send me your location. What? What? I was completely baffled. I'm coming to get you. You don't have to do that. I can get home myself, or Marco can give me a ride. The last thing I needed was her showing up. What would that even look like? Just send it. Her tone became commanding, a flicker of the old, imperious Isla, but mixed with something else I couldn't identify. Fine. I gave in, texting her the bar's address. When I hung up, Marco and the guys were staring at me with huge, curious eyes. Dude, you're divorced, and your ex-wife is still coming to pick you up? There's more to this story, isn't there? Shut up, I muttered, though my own mind was racing. She's probably just passing by. Before long, the black Bentley pulled up outside the bar. Isla got out in her white sundress. Standing in front of the noisy, gritty sports bar, she looked completely out of place. Her beautiful face was a mask of cool detachment, but her eyes kept darting toward our table. More than a few guys at the bar stopped to stare, probably wondering what a goddess like her was doing in a place like this. Kai, your wife. I mean, your ex-wife is here. Marco nudged me. I stood up and walked over. You really came. I told you not to drink too much. She glanced at my flushed face, her brow furrowing. How many did you have, seriously? Just a couple. I ran a hand through my hair. Get in. She didn't argue, just opened the passenger door. I turned back and waved to my friends. I'm heading out, guys. You have fun. You too, Kai, be safe. Marco called back, wiggling his eyebrows. I slid into the car. Isla started the engine. The car was silent, filled with the faint, clean scent of her perfume. It was the same as always, a cool floral fragrance. Why? Why did you come and get me? I had to ask. She stared straight ahead at the road, her voice even. I was worried you'd drink too much and get into trouble. I'm a grown man. What kind of trouble could I get into? I was always the one you picked up, she said, so quietly I almost missed it. It was true. After her events, when she was drunk, I was always the one to get her, no matter how late. I'd be there to make sure she got home safe. That's all in the past, I said with a small smile. From now on, you need to take care of yourself. Drink less. She didn't respond, but her knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The car soon arrived at my friend's building. Thanks for the ride. I unbuckled my seatbelt, ready to get out. Kai, she said suddenly. Yeah. She turned to look at me. The streetlight cast a soft glow through the windshield, tracing the delicate lines of her face. Her eyes, no longer icy, seemed to shimmer with a complex emotion. If you're not busy sometime, you could come by the office. She paused, as if it took all her courage to say the words. I was stunned. Visit her at Sato Global? Why? Seeing the confusion on my face, she seemed to grow flustered and quickly added. I mean, if you need help with anything, or if you just want to talk, you can come find me. Oh, okay, I said, still processing. You should go on up, she said, looking down. I'll bite. You get home safe. I pushed the door open and got out. As the Bentley disappeared into the night, I stood there on the sidewalk, a whirlwind of emotions churning inside me. Isla's behavior tonight was beyond strange. When the world was wrong with her. In the days that followed, Isla's bizarre behavior only escalated. She called me sporadically, asking the same. Have you eaten? What are you doing? Did you go anywhere? Her tone was still far from warm, but compared to the Arctic chill of the past 3 years, it was a heat wave. At first, I figured she was just adjusting to life without a personal assistant, a kind of phantom limb syndrome. but I was starting to suspect it was more than that. That week, my old high school lab partner, Lily Evans, was in town for a conference. When she heard I was divorced, she insisted on taking me out for dinner to catch up. Lily was a bright, bubbly person. We'd been good friends in school, and though we went to different colleges and drifted a bit, we'd always stayed in touch. We met at a chic bistro in Soho. Lily looked great in a vibrant yellow dress. "Kai, I still can't believe it. You married the Isla Sato," she said, her eyes wide. "I seem to remember you in high school saying you wanted to marry someone sweet and down to earth." I gave a wry smile. "Don't remind me. That's all over now." "Well, you must have gotten a pretty sweet payday out of it, right? Enough to live it up for a while?" Lily asked, her curiosity palpable. "It's enough to get a place of my own, maybe start a small business," I said, skirting the actual number. We fell into easy conversation, laughing about old teachers and sharing stories about our lives now. Lily was outgoing and funny, and I found myself laughing more than I had in a long time. Right in the middle of a funny story, my phone rang. It was Isla. I stared at the screen, bewildered, before finally answering. "Hello. Where are you?" Her voice was probing. "Out to dinner with a friend." "A friend? Male or female?" Same direct question as last time. "Female. A friend from high school," I answered honestly. The line was silent for a few seconds. Then her voice returned a few degrees cooler. "Oh, really? Which one? Do I know her?" "You don't. Her name's Lily Evans. We were lab partners." "Oh," she said again, her tone unreadable. "Well, have fun." And she hung up. I looked at my phone, completely mystified. "Who was that, the ex?" Lily asked. "Yeah." I nodded, putting my phone away. "Sorry about that." "No worries," Lily smiled. "Sounds like she's still keeping tabs on you. Checking in, even after the divorce." "Nah, just a random call," I said, trying to brush it off. The rest of the dinner was pleasant. Afterward, I walked Lily back to her hotel. "Thanks for dinner, Kai. It was so good to see you," she said with a bright smile. "Next time, it's on me." "You got it. Anytime." "Okay, I'm heading up. Bye." She waved and disappeared into the hotel lobby. I turned to leave and had only taken a few steps when I saw it. A black Bentley parked just down the street. The window was down, revealing Isla's impassive face. I stopped in my tracks, then walked over. "What are you doing here?" She just looked at me. "Passing by again?" With the passing by, the probability of this was getting ridiculous. "What a coincidence," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. She ignored my tone and glanced towards the hotel entrance. "Is your friend gone?" "Yeah, she went inside." "You two seem to be having a good time." A sour note I'd never heard before laced her words. "It was fine. She's an old friend. We're just catching up." "She's very pretty." "Yeah, she is," I agreed without thinking. The moment the words left my mouth, Isla's expression hardened. Her eyes turned cold, a look I knew all too well. "Is that so? You two seem to hit it off," she said, her voice devoid of any warmth. It finally clicked. Something was very, very wrong. "What's the matter?" I asked, confused. "You seem upset." "I'm not," she snapped, turning her face away. "Why would I be upset? We're divorced. What you do is none of my business." She said the words, but her tense posture and clipped tone told a different story. Could it be? A preposterous idea flashed through my mind. Was she jealous? No. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. This was Isla Sato, the woman who had treated me like a piece of furniture for 3 years. She couldn't possibly be jealous over me. I had to be imagining things. "Oh, good," I said with a small smile. "Well, I'm gonna head home. You should too." "Wait," she called out again. "What now?" "You should avoid having dinner alone with women you don't know that well." She frowned, her words coming out like a command. "Why?" I was genuinely baffled. "Lily is a high school friend. We're just friends." "Friends?" A man and a woman alone at a fancy restaurant, laughing and talking, and then you walk her to her hotel? You call that just friends? Her voice rose, edged with a raw emotion I had never heard from her before. Was it hurt? I was completely floored. "Isla, we are divorced," I said, my patience wearing thin. "Who I see and who I'm friends with is my business, right?" My words seemed to deflate her. Her face fell, her lips parted as if to say something, but she choked it back. All she could manage was a cold, "Do whatever you want." Then she stabbed a button, the window shot up, and the Bentley peeled away from the curb with a squeal of tires. I I stood there, watching her taillights disappear, my mind in a total fog. That reaction, that had to be jealousy. But why? After 3 years of utter indifference, why would she suddenly care who I was with now that we were divorced? The change was so abrupt, it felt like whiplash. I shook my head, feeling like I was losing my mind. After the coincidental run-in outside the restaurant, Isla's jealousy seemed to become more and more obvious. She started micromanaging my life. If I was at home, she'd call and ask, "What are you doing? Are you watching anything you're not supposed to?" If I went out, she'd ask, "Who are you with? Did you run into anyone?" I posted a picture on Instagram of me and Giant Marco playing basketball, and she immediately slid into my DMs. "Who's the person in the blue shirt? A guy or a girl?" The most ridiculous incident happened when I helped my next-door neighbor, a young mom, carry her new washing machine up the stairs. She couldn't manage it alone. I have no idea how Isla found out, but not an hour later, she was standing outside my apartment building. "Kai," she yelled up at my window, her voice sharp with anger. I hurried downstairs to find her fuming, looking like a furious kitten. "What's wrong? Why are you so angry? Were you just helping that woman move something?" she demanded, pointing in the direction of my neighbor's apartment. "Yeah, my neighbor. The washing machine was too heavy for her, so I gave her a hand," I said, completely baffled. "What's the problem?" "Your neighbor?" She repeated the words through gritted teeth, her eyes practically shooting sparks of jealousy. "You sound pretty friendly. Are you too close already, helping her with chores? What if she has a thing for you?" I was speechless. "Isla, the woman is married. She has a 2-year-old kid. Can you please stop being paranoid?" "So what if she's married? Married people can't have crushes?" she shot back, relentless. "I'm telling you, Kai, even though you're divorced, you can't just get close to any woman, especially not the kind who needs your help. What does our divorce have to do with anything? It's called being a good neighbor, isn't it?" I was starting to lose it. "What is your logic?" "I don't care." She put her hands on her hips, her expression petulant. "You're not allowed to help her move things anymore. And you're not allowed to talk to her." "Isla," I was getting angry now. "Don't you think you're overstepping? We are divorced. Can you please stay out of my life?" Hearing the word divorced, her fire immediately died down. A flash of hurt crossed her face before being replaced by stubborn pride. I was just warning you. I don't want you to get used," she said, her voice softer. "You've always been so naive. You're easy to take advantage of." "Oh, thank you so much for your concern," I said sarcastically. "I think I'm capable of judging character on my own. I don't need your help." I turned to go back inside. "Kai," she called out, her voice now laced with a surprising vulnerability. Do you hate it this much when I get involved?" I stopped and looked back at her. She stood there, bathed in the soft light of the setting sun, looking small and lonely. That face, usually so composed and cool, was now etched with uncertainty, and was that a plea? I was at a complete loss. "I don't hate it," I sighed. "I just think, given our current relationship, it's not really appropriate for you to act like this." "So, what is our relationship?" she asked in a small voice, her eyes filled with a hopeful light. I froze. What was our relationship? Divorced couple? Former employer and employee whose contract had ended? Neither felt right. Looking into her expectant eyes, I suddenly realized that I didn't want to define it. I didn't want to draw a hard, final line between us. I hesitated. "We're still friends, I guess." "Friends?" she repeated, the light in her eyes dimming for a second before flaring up again. "Okay, friends. And friends can care about each other and warn each other about things, right?" "Right?" I said with a defeated nod. "Then, as your friend, I'm warning you to stay away from other women, especially the pretty ones," she declared, instantly regaining her "I'm right" attitude. I just stared at her. Isla fished her keys out of her purse and tossed them to me. I caught them, confused. "What's this for?" "Take me home," she commanded, crossing her arms. "Miss Sato, we're divorced," I said, exasperated. "Why should I still be your driver?" I muttered under my breath. "Next you'll be telling me to—" $2,000, I said, a grin spreading across my face. "For $2,000, I'll be your personal chauffeur, valet, and sing you show tunes on the way. Your chariot awaits, Miss Sato," who was about to turn down a payday from this infuriatingly rich woman. Isla rolled her eyes, but a tiny smile played on her lips as she slid into the passenger seat of the Bentley. The drive was surprisingly quiet. Neither of us spoke. I pulled the car into the private garage next to her penthouse. Here we are. End of the line, Miss Sato. Isla turned her beautiful face toward me, looking like she was about to say something serious. I didn't give her the chance. I whipped out my phone and pulled up my Venmo QR code. Cash, credit, or crypto. All payments due upon arrival. Isla's expression remained perfectly calm as she took out her phone and scanned the code. A second later, my phone pinged. I glanced at the confirmation, then shot her a cheerful grin as I opened my door. Hey, Kai. Isla called out as I got out of the car. I turned back and gave her a theatrical little bow. Thank you for your business, Miss Sato. Please write again. And with that, I walked out of her garage and into the night. From then on, Isla's unreasonable behavior became the new normal. If I texted a female friend, she'd ask, "What's so funny?" If I went grocery shopping, she'd demand to know, "Did you buy anything weird?" I even bought a houseplant, and she somehow concluded, "A woman gave you that, didn't she?" Honestly, at first, it was annoying. I felt like she was being nosy and totally irrational. But gradually, I realized that being managed by her wasn't actually so bad, and that realization made me feel a little thrilled and a little terrified. The days ticked by, punctuated by Isla's random fits of jealousy. Our relationship settled into a strange, undefined space. We weren't a couple, but we weren't just friends, either. We were somewhere in between, in a state of constant, unspoken negotiation. She started finding the most bizarre excuses to see me. Kai, my laptop's acting up. Can you take a look? It was always a minor issue. She could have Googled and fixed in 5 minutes. Kai, I'm craving those short ribs you make. Could you make some for me? Then she devoured the whole plate before declaring them, just okay. Kai, I want to watch a horror movie tonight, but I'm too scared to watch it alone. Can you come over? She ended up spending the entire movie hiding behind me. Every time she came up with an excuse, I could sense her nervousness, her awkwardness, and beneath the veil of pride, a fragile dependence I'd never seen before. And for my part, I went from initial resistance and exasperation to a quiet acceptance. It was becoming my new normal. One day, Isla called, her voice hesitant. Kai, there's a charity gala tomorrow night. Would you come with me? A gala? What would I, an unemployed guy living off a contract payout, do at a place like that? Would that be appropriate? I asked. Of course it would, she said quickly. Just as a favor. A lot of people who have tried to sabotage me in the past will be there. I don't want to go alone. Hearing that hint of vulnerability in her voice, my heart softened. Okay, I'll go with. You really? That's great. Her voice was suddenly bright with unconcealed joy. I'll have a suit sent over and have my driver pick you up tomorrow, okay? Sounds good. After we hung up, I felt a mix of anticipation and nerves. Was this our first official date since the divorce? The next evening, the driver arrived right on time. The suit Isla had sent was a perfect fit. The gala was at a 5-star hotel in a ballroom glittering with chandeliers and filled with a sea of tuxedos and gowns. Isla was wearing a stunning red evening gown, her hair swept up to reveal the elegant line of her neck and collarbones. She looked like a blooming rose, and her entrance turned every head in the room. She walked over to me and slipped her arm through mine. Stay close to me tonight, she whispered. Her arm was slender, and through the thin fabric of her dress, I could feel the warmth of her skin. My heart sped up. Right, I nodded. We walked into the main hall together and were immediately swarmed by people wanting to greet her. Isla, darling, you look more beautiful every time I see you. Miss Sato, and who is this? This is Kai-chun, he's a friend of mine, Isla said, the word friend hanging in the air with a strange weight. I smiled and nodded at the curious faces. I had to admit, these high society events were painfully boring. Everyone spoke in pleasantries while their eyes were full of calculation. Isla navigated the crowd with practiced ease, but I could see the fatigue behind her perfect smile. Every so often, she would lean in and whisper, "Are you bored?" I'd shake my head. "I'm fine." Just then, a slick-looking middle-aged man approached us, a greasy smile plastered on his face. Well, if it isn't Ms. Sato. And you brought a date tonight. I don't recognize this young man. What do you work as, son? Isla's brow furrowed. She clearly disliked him. Mr. Vance, this is my friend, Kai-chun. Vance looked me up and down, his eyes dripping with condescension. A friend? Since when do you associate with friends so young? It looks like he just graduated college. A flare of anger shot through me, but I held my tongue. Isla's face hardened. Mr. Vance, my friends are none of your concern. If you'll excuse us, we have other people to see. She started to pull me away, but Vance was persistent, reaching out to put a hand on her shoulder. Now, Isla, don't be in such a hurry. We haven't had a chance to really talk in ages. Before his hand could touch her, I stepped in front of her, blocking his arm. I'm going to have to ask you to be respectful, I said, my voice ice cold. Vance, taken aback, scowled. And who the hell are you to talk to me like that? Who I am doesn't matter, I said, my voice low and firm. What matters is that you don't touch my friend. Isla looked at me, her eyes shining with gratitude and admiration. The people around us had noticed the commotion, and the air grew thick with tension. Vance grunted, shot me a dirty look, and slunk away. Thank you, Kai, Isla whispered, a tremor of relief in her voice. Don't worry about it, I smiled. Guys like that aren't worth your time. For the rest of the evening, Isla seemed distracted, her eyes constantly finding mine, her expression complex. Halfway through the gala, she pulled me out onto a terrace for some air. The night breeze played with her hair, and the moonlight softened the sharp angles of her face. Kai, she began, her voice low. Thank you for coming with me tonight. You don't have to thank me. Before, she paused, seeming to search for the words. When I had to go to these things, it was always my grandfather with me, or I was alone. No one has ever stood up for me like that. A sharp pang went through my heart. She had been this alone the whole time. From now on, if you need me, I'll always be there. The words tumbled out of my mouth before I could stop them. I immediately regretted it. What right did I have to make a promise like that, given our undefined relationship? Isla's head snapped up, her eyes bright with a dazzling light. Really? Looking at her hopeful face, I took a breath and found my courage. Really? A brilliant smile spread across her face like the sun melting a glacier. It was the first time in the 3 years I had known her that I had seen her smile so genuinely, so completely. It lit up my entire world. Kai. She seemed to want to say more, but the words caught in her throat, and a faint blush crept up her cheeks. We should go back inside. It's getting cold, I said quickly, afraid of what she might say next, of how I might react. Okay, she nodded, following me back into the ballroom. Inside, Isla was like a different person. She took my hand and proudly introduced me to her colleagues, her voice ringing with a new confidence. This is Kai. He's very important to me. And she started drinking, one glass after another. She was usually so careful, knowing her low tolerance. But tonight, she seemed to let go of all inhibitions. Isla, slow down. You can't handle this much, I warned her. I'm fine, she said, batting my hand away, her eyes hazy and her cheeks flushed. I'm happy tonight. I could only shake my head as I watched her. By the end of the night, she was completely drunk, leaning her entire weight on me, barely conscious. Kai. She murmured my name, her voice thick. My head is spinning. I know. I'm taking you home. I steadied her, told her driver I had it covered, and helped her into my Uber. In the back of the car, she rested her head on my shoulder, muttering incoherently. Kai, you're so mean. Why? Why did you have to divorce me? I don't want a divorce. 3 years, I got used to it. Used to having you around. The milk in the morning, the soup at night, you were so good to me. I knew all of it, but I was afraid to say anything. I was afraid you were just doing it for the money. Afraid you didn't like me. I thought after the divorce I would be free, but I'm not free at all. I miss you, Kai. I miss you so much. Her words came out in broken pieces, her voice growing smaller, tinged with tears, like a lost and wounded child. I listened in silence, a storm raging inside my chest. So she knew. She knew it all. She wasn't cold, just scared. She had gotten used to me, too. She liked me. The car pulled up outside my apartment building. Kai. She lifted her head, her drunken eyes looking at me, filled with dependence and hurt. Don't take me home. I don't want to be alone. Looking at her like this, how could I possibly say no? Okay, we'll go to my place. I helped her out of the car and half carried her up to my apartment. I sat her down on the sofa and went to get her a glass of water. Here, drink this. I helped her sit up and held the glass to her lips. She took a few sips, then suddenly threw her arms around me, burying her face in my chest. Kai, don't go, she mumbled. Her body was soft against mine, her scent a mix of wine and that unique, cool fragrance that was all her. My heart hammered against my ribs. I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here, I whispered, gently stroking her back. Do you not like me anymore? She asked, looking up, her eyes wet with tears. Is that why you divorced me? No, of course I like you, I said quickly. The divorce was because the contract was up, and I thought you didn't like me. I thought you only cared about your work. I do, she said, her voice suddenly loud, her eyes wide like a startled deer. I like you, Kai. I've liked you for so long. From the first time you made me that soup for my stomach, from the first time you blocked a drink for me at a party, from every night you left a light on for me. I started to like you, but I was too scared to say it. I was afraid you were just an actor, playing a part for the money. As she spoke, fresh tears streamed down her face, each one landing like a hot coal on my heart. You idiot, I whispered, reaching up to wipe her tears away. I like you too. From the first time I saw you fall asleep from exhaustion, from the moments I saw you let your guard down, from every single day of these last 3 years. I've liked you. Really? She stared at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. You're not just saying that. It's the truest thing in the world. I smiled, pulling her into a tight embrace. I was the idiot. I was so focused on the contract and the money that I ignored what I was feeling, and I ignored what you were feeling. I'm so sorry, Isla. So can we go back to how things were? She asked from my arms, her voice small and hopeful. No, I said, pulling back to cup her face in my hands, looking her straight in the eye. Not how they were before. We were a contract. Now, I want to be your real boyfriend, and one day, I want to be your real husband. Her eyes lit up like the brightest stars in the night sky. The tears came again, but this time they were tears of joy. Okay, kiss me, husband, she nodded fiercely, then leaned in and pressed her lips against mine. Her kiss was tinged with wine, a little clumsy and unsure, but it was filled with a sincerity and love that overwhelmed me. I kissed her back, holding her as if I could absorb her into my very being. 3 years of waiting, 3 years of distance, all of it melted away in that one perfect moment. Isla slept at my place that night, in separate rooms, of course. She was passed out, and I was just looking after her. The next morning, when she woke up in an unfamiliar room, she first looked confused, then memories of the previous night came flooding back, and her face turned a deep shade of crimson. I walked in with a breakfast tray and couldn't help but smile at her mortified expression. You're awake. How's your head? She immediately pulled the comforter over her face, her voice muffled. Last night, did I say a lot of stupid things? Not at all, I teased, then held up my phone and played the video I'd taken of her drunken confession. You. She peeked out from under the covers, her face somehow getting even redder. You recorded that? Every last word. Crystal clear, I said, setting the tray on a nightstand. Sit up and eat something. I made you some oatmeal. She just stared at me, a mixture of shame and embarrassment in her eyes. You have to delete that. It's so humiliating. Nope. I pocketed my phone with a playful smirk. I'm keeping it forever, I said, leaning in close, my voice low and serious, as blackmail to keep you in line for the rest of our lives. She looked at me, her eyes slowly filling with tears, and then she nodded fiercely. Okay, the rest of our lives. In that moment, I knew we had finally, truly found our way to each other. From that day on, everything changed. We were no longer a contract, no longer cold and distant. We were a real couple. Isla shed her icy armor, completely transforming into an affectionate, clingy, and adorably jealous girlfriend. She would call me every morning to wake me up, even though I was usually already in the kitchen making her breakfast. She would come straight to my apartment after work and collapse into my arms like a little girl, complaining about her day. She would take my hand without thinking and rest her head on my shoulder when we walked down the street. She would wrap her arms around me from behind while I was cooking and whisper, Kai, you're so sexy when you cook. And of course, her jealousy didn't diminish one bit. If anything, it got worse. One afternoon, I ran into another old college classmate at the supermarket, and we chatted for a couple of minutes in the cereal aisle. I don't know how she found out, but when Isla came over that evening, she was sulking. What's wrong? Who upset my girl? I asked with a grin. She just huffed and turned away. You know what you did. I really don't, I said, playing dumb. I was a perfect angel all day, didn't even leave the apartment. Liar. She spun around, pointing an accusing finger at me. You were talking to another one of your old classmates, weren't you? What are you talking about? Did you get her number? Seeing her all puffed up with indignation was so cute. I couldn't help but laugh. I pulled her into a hug. Okay, you caught me. I ran into someone from college at the store. We talked for 2 minutes about which brand of shampoo is best. That's it, I swear. You can check my phone. Really? She asked, her voice skeptical. Really? Cross my heart. That seemed to satisfy her. She relaxed into my arms, burying her face in my chest. Well, you're not allowed to talk to any more old classmates. If you need to talk about something, you can talk to me. Yes, ma'am. Whatever you say, I said, my voice full of helpless affection as I tweaked her nose. That night, after Isla got out of the shower, she cornered me and pushed me back onto the bed, a wicked glint in her eye. What are you doing? I asked, confused. She smirked. Tonight, I'm going to devour you, so you won't have the energy to even think about other girls. 2 hours later, Isla was lying peacefully beside me, seemingly exhausted. I was still reeling from the experience. Wait a minute. Was I just taken advantage of? This injustice cannot stand. I have to reclaim my honor. With that thought, I rolled over, pinning her beneath me. Isla jumped, startled. What do you think you're doing? I just smiled. You. Be gentle, she whispered, her voice soft and sultry. We spent the rest of the night tangled up in sheets. For the next few days, it was Isla who was walking with a slight limp. These sweet, playful moments became our daily routine. I discovered that once an iceberg melts, the water is warmer and more wonderful than you could ever imagine. Isla became brighter, happier, and laughed more often. At the office, she was still the formidable Ms. Sato, but with me, she was just my Isla. One day, I decided to bring a homemade lunch to Isla's office. When I arrived, she was in the middle of dressing down a few employees who had clearly messed up. Watching her, so cool and commanding, I thought about the soft, sweet woman she was with me. The contrast was intoxicating. When she saw me, her expression softened for a split second before she turned back to her team. All right, that's all. You can go. The moment the office door closed, her corporate armor dissolved, and she launched herself into my arms. Kai, I missed you. What are you doing here? Did you miss me too? She asked, looking up at me with hopeful eyes. I reached out and pinched her cheek. Of course I did. I handed her the insulated lunch bag. You rushed out this morning and forgot this again. Looking at the still warm container, Isla's eyes grew misty. You're the best, honey, she murmured, her voice a purr that melted my bones. I watched her eat, and when she was done, I was about to leave, but she stopped me. Honey, I have a surprise for you, she said, her expression mischievous. I looked at her, puzzled. She just smiled, told me to wait, and dashed out of the office. 10 minutes later, she walked back in. She was wearing a pair of sheer black stockings. What do you think? Do you like them? She asked, her voice dripping with seduction. Then she slowly lifted the hem of her black pencil skirt, revealing a long, stocking-clad leg. Damn, a full-blown office fantasy. Who could possibly resist that? Let's just say there was another flurry of activity in her office that afternoon. Eventually, I started my own company. We supported each other, and both our businesses grew and thrived. Once we were both on solid footing, Isla and I had a grand wedding, the real deal this time, to make up for the one we never really had. Afterward, we traveled the world, spending a few blissful months on an extended honeymoon. Our married life was perfect, except for one thing. Ever since we'd first been together, Isla's appetite for me had become insatiable. It felt like every day was a new adventure. Honey, I bought some new lace lingerie. Honey, what do you think of this nurse's uniform? Master, today I am your obedient little maid. My body was starting to give out. Soon, I was the one walking with a limp every morning. This continued until the day Isla found out she was pregnant. At the OBGYN's office, the doctor was going over a list of things to expect during the pregnancy. Excuse me, doctor, I interrupted. Does pregnancy affect a couple's physical activities? The doctor's tone immediately turned stern. Your wife is pregnant. You shouldn't be thinking about things like that. As a husband, you should be more considerate. Before she could finish her lecture, I turned to Isla with a solemn look. You heard the doctor. No funny business during the pregnancy. Isla shot me a glare. Fine. You're off the hook for now. I let out a huge sigh of relief. I knew we had lost 3 years, but that was okay. We hadn't lost each other. The road ahead was long, and we were finally walking it together.